Hello everybody, Dave Neal here, stand-up comic and host of Bachelor Recap, a guy's review. Good morning, and we are talking Colton Underwood. Today, as you see in the title, Colton Underwood publicly apologizes to Cassie Randolph after coming out as gay. I made a lot of bad choices. A lot of bad choices indeed. In the last year, Colton Underwood has had a roller coaster. He went from breaking up with his now ex-girlfriend, Cassie Randolph, quarantining in her family's third floor upper level apartment while he had COVID, and then after their breakup, he couldn't really let things go. He became kind of stalkerish and planted a tracking device on her car, created separate phone numbers where he harassed himself as a stranger, playing a stranger, and harassed Cassie and her friends and her brother. And then he went into hiding. When it all came out, she got a temporary restraining order against him. When it was time to go to trial, she dropped the charges. Colton released a statement, and Cassie has not. So since then, let's hear what Colton has to say. A lot of people are upset that ABC is giving him this platform here to talk. But let's hear this 7 minutes out. We will react to it and talk after that. So here's Colton Underwood's interview with on Good Morning America.
Colton, thank you for this opportunity to sit down with you. Is there something that you want people to know? So can you tell us what is on your heart that you want to share?
Yeah. Obviously, like, this year's been a lot for a lot of people, and it's probably made a lot of people look themselves in the mirror and figure out who they are and what they've been running from or what they've been putting off in their lives. And for me, I've ran from myself for a long time. I've hated myself for a long time, and I'm gay, and I came to terms with that earlier this year and have been processing it. And the next step in all of this was sort of letting people know. Still nervous, but yeah, it's been a journey for sure.
Through the nerves, I can see the joy. I can see the relief.
I mean, I'm emotional, but I'm emotional in like such a good, happy, positive way. I'm like the happiest and healthiest I've ever been in my life, and that means the world to me. And yeah.
What was that moment like for you that gave you the courage to speak your truth as you are today?
I got into a place for me in my personal life that was dark and bad, and I can list a bunch of different things, but they'd all be excuses. But I think overall the reason why now is because I got to a place where I didn't think I was ever going to share this. I would have rather died than say I'm gay. And I think that was sort of my wake-up call.
Did you ever think about harming yourself?
Yeah. There was a moment in LA that I woke up and I didn't think I was going to wake up. I didn't have the intentions of waking up, and I did. And I think for me that was like my wake-up call of like, this is your life. Take back control. And I think looking back even beyond that is like even just suicidal thoughts and, you know, driving my car close to a cliff, like, oh, if this goes off the cliff, it's not that big of a deal. I don't feel that anymore.
The former Bachelor walking in his truth, while also realizing that his fans and the women he dated on the show may have questions. So many people were cheering you on and wanting you to find love, and now they may feel that you misled the public and misled those women from that season.
Yep.
How do you address people who feel that way?
I would understand why they think that way. And I mean, I'd thought a lot about this too, of do I regret being the Bachelor, and do I regret handling it the way that I did? I do. I do think I could have handled it better. I'll say that.
How so?
I just wish I wouldn't have dragged people into my own mess of figuring out who I was. I genuinely mean that. But I also, at the same time, like, that I can sit here and say I'm sorry to all of those women. I can also say thank you, because without them and without the Bachelor franchise, I don't know if this would have ever came out.
Colton also sharing a message for Cassie, the woman he jumped the fence for on The Bachelor.
Colton! Open the fence, guys, open the fence.
Their relationship ending tumultuously last year, Cassie filing and then dropping a restraining order against him.
I would like to say sorry for how things ended. I messed up. I made a lot of bad choices.
Were you in love with Cassie?
Yes. I mean, and that only made it harder and more confusing for me. If I'm being very honest, I loved everything about her. And it's hard for me to articulate exactly what my emotions were in going through that relationship with her was, because I obviously had an internal fight going on. I would just say that I'm sorry from the bottom of my heart. I'm sorry for any pain and emotional stress I caused. I wish it wouldn't have happened the way it did. I wish that I would have been courageous enough to fix myself before I broke anybody else.
A weight now lifted as he steps into his full self after a lifelong personal battle with his sexuality, a truth he previously denied.
I literally remember praying to God the morning I found out that I was a bachelor and thanking him for making me straight. I remember that vividly, of saying, like, finally you're letting me be straight. Finally you're giving me a wife, a fiance, and then I'm gonna have the kids, and then I'm gonna have the house, and then I'm gonna have all this. I've known that I've been different since the age of 6. And I couldn't process it, and I couldn't put my finger on what it was until high school, my freshman year, when I knew I was gay. And by that time, I had already grown up in the Catholic Church. I have gone to Catholic grade school. I had learned in the Bible that gay is a sin. I had made mistakes in my sports and in my athletic career, and when you make mistakes, that play was gay, or that was gay was always affiliated with a connotation of negativity. And I think there's a lot of things when I look back, I'm like, no wonder I held it in.
Some of the people that you've told are the very people that, as you said, like you played football with, or friends who used a negative term about being gay. And when you came out to them, what was the response from them?
You know, I've had sort of a range of responses, and the underlining, the most common one was almost like, I wish you would have told me sooner. And when I hear that, I wish I would have had faith in my friends and my family a little bit more. My dad, I told him, and his reaction was sort of the same, of like, I wish you would have trusted me sooner. But then he followed it up with, how can I help you? How can I help take this off your plate? Who can I tell? And like, to me, that was more meaningful than I love you. The only reason I'm sitting down with you today is because I have the love and the support of my friends and my family.
And his dad was there for Colton.
I would watch the full interview. Obviously, these are edited. It's 7 minutes. Maybe it was a 25-minute chat. Whatever it was, whittled down. I would watch the full thing. It's riveting. It's very interesting. Let's talk about it. Colton with very nervous energy here. First of all, congratulations for building up the courage to come out. As a straight guy, I can't understand what type of courage that takes. I have been very close to friends that have come out to me as their first person to come out to, and have heard of how nervous they were, how tough it must be to wonder what people are going to think of you. You know, you said that you knew you were gay when you were a freshman, but obviously when it comes to denial, it's a very dangerous thing. Some people say, you know, I knew I was gay since I was 6, and I just always felt that way. And then some people bury it so far deep inside of them that pain of not being your authentic self will resonate in dangerous ways. It's cancerous to not be your authentic self. And that's a blame you can put on the church, society. It is kind of divvied up amongst a generation of, this is where we're at. Now, it's never been a better time to come out of the closet, I could imagine. My buddy who came out to me was about a decade ago, almost 15 years ago. And it was a time where, like, it was still, people would ask me, does your friend still think he's gay? Like, there was a lot of doubt within the fact that this was a mindset versus just an identity as who you really are. So to be in 2021 and there's still being fear about coming out, I totally understand. We're untangling centuries worth of hate towards this minority community, amongst others, gender identity, who you are, your sexual identity. There's still a lot of education that has to go with all of that. So to understand that you wish you had the courage to do this earlier, for those who haven't watched any previous videos, I have probably been the hardest on Colton of anyone reporting anything about The Bachelor, because he hadn't yet addressed any elephant in the room, which was his domestic manipulation of his ex-girlfriend, the tracking device on her car. Still doesn't address it here. I hope that comes with time. He did apologize to Cassie. He said, sorry, and then he said, I messed up. And you sure did. And talking about and celebrating you coming out will be a separate issue from how you have messed up and how you're going to make that right. I think they will be intertwined, but you've got a platform that can, help out people that have had mental health issues that led to suicidal thoughts, mental health issues that led to manipulating and stalking and the sort of mindset that you can get to try to control others and control things you can't control, which would be a girl who leaves you. The purity culture around your identity growing up in Catholic school. I grew up as a Catholic. The idea that there's one set way of being versus another, that's very hard to overcome. I played football. There is this wildly masculine aspect to this violent sport. And I think there's a spectrum with masculinity and femininity, and you can be a masculine gay guy. You can be a feminine gay guy. You can be anything you want to be in life. And yet there are these boxes that we're initially put into, and then it's up to us to break through them and understand who we are. I've got gay friends that love wrestling, and I'm a straight guy that loves the show Smash and anything related to musical theater, okay? We're all different people. I look forward to Colton being able to celebrate that, and I really do think that sunlight is the greatest disinfectant. So just by making this announcement, just by talking about it, he sort of releases a certain set of shackles he's put on him his whole entire life. That will lead to good things. With that said, and as I've said all along, the hardest part about talking about Colton is that he hasn't addressed all of the issues. He addressed that Cassie got rid of the restraining order, and then he kind of just went away. And we waited, and obviously if someone's coming out of the closet, you have to let them do that on their terms. There was no speculation whatsoever, by me at least, towards his sexuality. That was a separate issue. So when this story was teased last night, everyone and their mother knew Colton was about to come out of the closet. Everybody knew that was going to happen, and I hope he realizes that the response he will get will be overwhelmingly positive. And for other young or even old gay men or gay women or whatever identity you have that you feel like no one will understand, hopefully this is a good example that people do understand. People do have compassion for others. He says when he told his dad and a lot of other friends says, I wish you would have told me sooner. To think one of my own best friends was worried that I was going to ditch him as a friend because of the type of person, the gender that he was attracted to, blew my mind. But then I never had the mindset that he had. That was, very much like Colton's, which is something is gay. It's got a negative intonation. And to that, it's kind of a word we're phasing out of our system. I still do stand-up jokes about that, about my stepdad being sort of homophobic, not in a way where he's got any vitriol, but in a way where he was raised by a World War II veteran, and they couldn't hug each other without patting each other on the back. There was a very prim and proper thing about it all. You couldn't get too close or have someone catch you crying. My generation's the opposite. My generation, everyone's got a weighted blanket because we just want to feel held, right? We want to feel held and we want to feel like we belong, and we want to just be our authentic self, be a little gay, Be a little straight. Be whatever the hell you feel like being. Go with the wind. What do you feel like today? Everyone's identity is different, and we need to embrace that, because when you embrace it, good things can happen. So anyway, yeah, he said, I hated myself for a long time. He said he's the happiest and healthiest he's ever been in his life. I believe him. I believe him. Now, obviously, this is like a tornado that just went through a trailer park. Now he's saying, oh, it's good to be free. It's like, did you see the path of destruction you caused? So Colton caused a path of destruction for Cassie Randolph, her family, and anyone who is triggered by their own issues of stalking. And as you know, my channel has had millions of views about the Colton issue, and thousands, if not tens of thousands of people, women, leaving their comments about how they have suffered from having a stalker in their life, or a boyfriend that wouldn't accept no as an answer, an ex-boyfriend, different issues where like the cops don't believe you when you try to file a restraining order. My fiance and I have talked about issues she suffered in her past. These issues affect everybody. Colton, part of the message you need to give moving forward is sharing your story, sharing the addictions you felt that led you into an alleyway late at night, that gave you suicidal thoughts because you couldn't live up to the pressures of a perfect life with a perfect trophy wife and a trophy family. I mean, you said here that you were excited to become Bachelor because it meant you weren't gay. And I do empathize with you, that hopeless feeling that you've been cured because you've been accepted by a mainstream dating show. I totally understand that feeling. And then when it all unraveled, coming to terms with who you really are. It took a global pandemic. It took heartbreak. It took isolation. But because you're a fighter, Colton. So here's the credit I have to give you. You're a fighter. You fought so hard to say you were straight that you went on national TV. You played football, you made it into the pros briefly, and you did a lot of macho things to prove you were straight. Not that you were trying to fool all of us, but because you were trying to fool yourself. When all that was stripped away, when all you had left was the guy who hit rock bottom, and you looked in that mirror and you woke up the morning you didn't think you would wake up, that's when you were reborn. Now, how are we going to deal with all this? I'm not a psychologist. I just comment on the news in the Bachelor Nation. I do some stand-up comedy. I have a podcast. But how are we going to deal with all this? You know, you're going to you apologize to Cassie. I just don't think that's the final word on that issue. When it comes to like digging yourselves out of this mess you created with the domestic violence and the restraining order, the temporary restraining order and all that, this issue, because stalking is domestic violence. Hitting somebody, you know, you can't compare hitting somebody to stalking them without physical alteration, but it has to be a similar scenario, because the emotional pain probably can hurt more than the physical. The bruises go away, is my point. The bruises go away. When you stalk somebody, they might be stuck with PTSD for a very long time, require a lot of therapy, have trust issues. She might, as a mother, bring those trust issues down to her kids. It's a systemic problem when you mess with other people. But when you're trying to figure out who you are and you get there, now it's your chance to make it right. And I'm talking to Colton, I'm talking to everyone else who has overcome whatever your issues are, and I'm talking to myself too. Whatever your issues are that you've overcome, now that you have a chance to look back and be a better version of yourself, now you teach the younger generation. You teach the other generation. He's got 1 million people. He's got a large Christian following. He's got a lot of people that will follow his next steps, including me. Now, a lot of people were upset that Colton had got this platform. That's your right to feel that way. You can boycott ABC or GMA or Colton. You can do all that. Me, I think my plan is that I'm going to move forward seeing what his moves are. I'm going to move forward seeing that he's taking care of his platform by talking about domestic violence, by talking about the issues that led him to where he got. I look at most people other than true psychopaths are psychopaths. They don't feel pain, whatever, you know, they're 3 of my exes. I'm kidding. I've never dated a psychopath that I know of. But a true psychopath you can't really cure, or at least not on these terms. But most people mean well and they're just trying their best with the information they have. You can get very desperate. I've been super codependent. I've had codependent flares in relationships, and seeing where someone, like, there's a spectrum of it. So like seeing what your ex is doing by checking out their Instagram is like a low level of stalking. There is a range to it, to tracking device and other methods, but there's a range to it. And you while you can't exactly see where it's like, how did you get to the point where you got duct tape and put a tracking device under the hood of someone's car? How did you get to that point? I don't know how you get there, but you get there by taking one step at a time from a normal way of living. So if we sort of hear from him and detangle all that, we can see how like good people can end up doing bad things. And no one's just defined as I'm a good person or I'm a bad person. It's way different than that. It's more complicated. Good people can do bad things. Good people can make mistakes. They can act off of their reptilian impulses and their jealousy. And there's a lot of toxic, low energy feelings out there, especially when you break up. In one of the texts that Colton sent to Cassie, he was like, we never had these trust issues before. And it's like, Colton, you don't have the trust issues when the relationship's going good. You have the trust issues when the relationship's going bad. Your codependency doesn't flare up when things are good. It flares up when there's a little bit of a pulling away. So for all of his issues that they came about when the pandemic was started, and it makes sense. It was all one of those like triangular forces where like 3 different earthquakes all merged, or 3 different hurricanes all merged at once into this massive, weather event. And that's what happened to him. And I'm glad it did, because it got us to a place where he's having these conversations. What he went through and his decisions to hide his sexuality must have been extremely painful. What he put Cassie through in his abusive behavior was also incredibly shitty and inflicted an immeasurable amount of pain. Both can be true at the same time without one stealing empathy from the other. There is no scarcity in empathy to be found here, and empathy doesn't have to be withheld in order to maintain accountability. Thank you so much for that comment from a nice stranger over here. You can feel for his situation coming out. You can feel for Cassie. There is no one versus the other. We're not on Team Cassie, Team Colton. We're on Team Humanity here, folks. We're on Team Humanity. Empathy doesn't have to be withheld. So they said that, and then he said, agreed. We can hold people accountable, but still acknowledge their humanity. It's something this sub seems to struggle with a lot. I'm in the Bachelor subreddit. Yeah, as a non-religious person, I can't imagine Colton's pain, but I especially feel awful for women when they are mistreated and then the partner comes out. Suddenly, what they suffered through is overshadowed by the partner's struggle and bravery. I hope that doesn't happen for Cassie. Very true. Cassie's issues have not changed. Hopefully she gets relief in partly because of his apology, but also Colton, your journey coming forward, your celebration. I look forward to seeing your authentic self. I look forward to seeing whatever it is you bring to the table to share your authentic self. I champion that. But also, with that said, that does not take away from what you did to Cassie. And it was illegal, and you got away with it. And hopefully it was the lesson that puts you on a path to real charity, really engaging your platform to learn and do better. And maybe you could also become an advocate for your faith, to talk about what it means to be gay and be a Christian. I think that would be very positive for you. Still super wish we weren't giving public platforms to stalkers, regardless of how understandably difficult other aspects of their lives have been. I understand Facebook moms may be far more harsh towards him now, not good, but I have a feeling Reddit will definitely soften toward him sticking around the public eye. And I think neither should happen. He should just go, be well, and be a regular nobody seeking therapy and working on becoming a person who doesn't harass others. Those are some viewpoints for sure. If you guys want to call in and let me know what you guys think, please keep the voicemails under a minute long. I can't play longer voicemails. We get too many voicemails. I will make a video dedicated to Colton Underwood, his Good Morning America interview, coming out of the closet, what you think about it, what you think he should be doing with his platform, how did he do addressing the Cassie Randolph situation, what was lacking. Leave a voicemail, 401-213-9828. In my eyes, the thing that was lacking with regards to the Cassie Randolph situation is not going over line item by line item how toxic it was. I would like him to specifically address the tracking device, specifically address creating separate phone numbers, because that's the psychotic part, is that he created a different phone number to harass himself while he harassed Cassie. I'd like him to discuss those things and why he felt like that was okay in the moment. I think he will be willing to. I think he's broken and dissolved this exoskeleton of the world that he thought people wanted him to be. And I think by doing that, it will open the doors to go, you know what? What else do I have to lose? Let's talk about it. I really hope that's the case. If he doesn't do that, I will really be holding him accountable to that. Coming out of the closet is a separate and championed thing to do that will not take away from addressing the specificity of the pain you caused, not for Cassie's sake, but for the sake of others, to show people how you got to where you got. So people might realize when they are feeling alone, call a friend, call your mom. When they are feeling alone, don't try to hold on to a friendship with an ex. When you are, like, what can you do to avoid those situations if you have a toxic personality, an obsessive personality? There are ways to avoid the codependent flares. It's almost like an alcoholic doesn't go to AA and say, oh, I'm cured of alcoholism. They go to AA and they say, hi, my name's Steve. I'm an alcoholic. A codependent does the same thing. You don't cure yourself of whatever issues you have. You just maintain a little burn zone around that pain, and you manage it, and you don't let it get, and you don't let it overgrow. And the issue with what happened this year was he threw gasoline all over that fire, and he let it get out of control to a point of such despair that he was having suicidal thoughts and didn't think he wanted to be alive anymore. Imagine being his parents, raising him to have good Christian values, and then they find out how alone he was. They must feel terrible. And if you ever have any friends that aren't seeming right, trust your intuition. Get on the phone with them, get coffee with them. Understand that everyone's going through different pains in life, and if we can get out of our own head and recognize those pains when they come up, we will do our own part in keeping our community safe and preventing the just rising levels of suicide, other gun violence issues, all the issues that are surrounded by mental health. It is a community issue. We have to protect those around us. And unfortunately, the pandemic and social media in general has created a world that has actually divided us. It has created a world where it's brought hate into our pocket, and we need to get back to a world where we take care of each other. Let me know what you guys think. Like I said, leave a voicemail. Let's get the number up. That's the voicemail number right there. I'll make a video this afternoon with all of your voicemails. Keep them under a minute. And anyway, folks, I will talk to you later. Please be respectful in the comments section. Bye-bye now.